Survival during World War II wasn't just about dodging bullets or avoiding enemy fire. It was about battling an even more merciless foe, nature itself. From the frozen wastelands of the Eastern Front to the steaming jungles of Asia, from the drenched forests of Europe to the windswept deserts of North Africa, soldiers fought not just with weapons, but with wits. They learned to adapt, improvise and survive using whatever materials the land provided. Their ingenuity often meant the difference between life and death, as they built shelters that kept them alive through snow, rain and mud. On the Eastern Front, the cold was as deadly as any bullet. Temperatures plunged below -40 degrees, freezing weapons, rations and even the breath of soldiers mid-air. The men quickly learned that the snow, though deadly, could also be their ally. By carving out snow caves or shallow trenches, they created insulated pockets that trapped heat. Inside those crude shelters it was still bitterly cold, but warmer than the lethal winds outside. Some lined the walls with pine branches, others used old coats or blankets to reduce moisture and frost. It was not comfort they sought, but survival. A soldier who knew how to use the snow lived longer than one who didn't. In the rain-soaked forests of Western Europe, the enemy wasn't cold. It was the endless downpour that turned everything into a swamp. Tents were rare, and soldiers couldn't carry much while marching, so they learned to improvise. One of the most common and effective tricks was the poncho lean-to. A simple piece of waterproof canvas or a poncho was tied between two trees at an angle, creating a sloped roof that shed rainwater. Beneath it, men huddled close, their boots sinking into the mud, trying to keep their rifles dry. Sometimes they layered branches over the poncho for camouflage and extra cover. It was simple, fast, and could be torn down in seconds when it was time to move. These makeshift shelters weren't luxurious, but to a soldier soaked for days, they were a sanctuary. Mud, too, became both a curse and a companion. In Italy and the Pacific, where rain turned battlefields into rivers of sludge, soldiers learned to dig dugouts, shallow trenches reinforced with logs, planks, or metal scraps scavenged from wrecks. These dugouts offered some protection from enemy fire and rain, and when lined with sandbags or sticks, could keep out most of the water. But even then, mud always found a way in. Men slept in damp clothes, boots never fully dry, rifles wrapped in oilcloths. Disease spread fast, but abandoning the shelter wasn't an option. The dugout was the only place between life and exposure. You know, nature itself often became a building material. Soldiers would use pine branches, brush and straw to create walls, flooring, or even roofs. In the forests of the Ardennes or on the snowy edges of Norway, bundles of branches laid on the ground provided insulation from the frozen earth. Just a few inches of dry brush could mean the difference between frostbite and a bit of rest. Straw, scavenged from abandoned barns or villages, became a natural mattress and a barrier against the cold. It wasn't pretty, but in war, comfort was measured in degrees, not softness. Ah, foxholes, those iconic pits of the battlefield, they weren't just for fighting, you see. They were homes, temporary, uncomfortable, but absolutely life-saving. Now, soldiers, they often modified these foxholes with whatever materials they could find. Logs for roofing, corrugated metal sheets from destroyed buildings, or even doors ripped off their hinges, all to create crude coverings. This ingenuity turned an exposed pit into a bunker, one that shielded them from rain, wind, and even artillery shrapnel. Quite remarkable, really. Over time, some foxholes became almost permanent. Soldiers built small stoves out of metal cans, added drainage ditches, and carved little niches for candles or food. It was, a fragile sense of home in a place designed for chaos. Then there was one of the most brilliant pieces of military design, the shelter half. Each soldier carried half of a tent. Alone, it was pretty much useless, but when paired with another soldier's half, it formed a full two-man tent. This not only cut down on weight, but also built camaraderie. Your life depended on your partner, not just in battle, but in the cold nights that followed. These small tents were quick to set up, sturdy enough to withstand harsh weather, and could even be buried under snow for insulation in winter conditions. When the wind howled and the frost set in, two soldiers could share warmth beneath the thin canvas and find a few hours of peace. Every one of these shelters, from snow caves to foxholes, told the same story, that survival in war is as much about adaptation as courage. The men who fought in World War II didn't always have the best equipment or the perfect conditions. They had ingenuity, desperation, and the will to endure. They learned that the earth could be both an enemy and a shield. They mastered the art of using whatever they had to outlast the elements, because every night survived meant one more chance to see the morning. When we think of World War II, we often imagine tanks rumbling across fields, bombers lighting up the skies, and cities reduced to rubble. But, behind those moments of destruction were countless acts of quiet resilience. The soldier digging into the snow, the one tying his poncho between trees, or the one lying in a muddy dugout, each was fighting a different kind of battle. A battle not for victory, but for survival. Their shelters may have been temporary, but their spirit was not. It was the will to endure the unbearable that defined them. These simple survival hacks, snow caves, poncho shelters, dugouts, brush insulation, foxhole bunkers and two-man tents, were more than clever tricks. They were lifelines forged from necessity. They remind us that war is not just fought with weapons, but with resilience, creativity, and the relentless instinct to live. In the harshest conditions imaginable, these soldiers proved that survival isn't about strength alone. It's about adaptability, resourcefulness, and hope.